Hi, thanks so much for joining Black Girl Math this month. I am joined by a new friend who I met through Twitterverse and then met in real life, who's become a friend, a colleague, and also a mentor for me. Thank you so much, Dr. Christopher Childs, for joining us. Uh, Dr. Childs is an educator, consultant, author who focuses on excellence in teacher content and pedagogical knowledge, equity, leadership development, and organizational change, all in education. So thanks so much for joining me, Dr. Childs.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited to be on this show. I'm excited. I've been waiting. I've been seeing this show. I've been seeing it all around. I'm like, I got to get on the show. I got to get on the show. I'm finally on the show, y'all. Mama, I made it. Mama, I made it. I'm on the show.
I'm excited because you has, like, as I said, supported me and been an awesome mentor because you really ask those deep questions around, like, what are you trying to do? And you get to the heart of it. So I really appreciate it. And you've also been a huge supporter of Black Girl Math. And thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, my first question for all of my guests are always, what's your why in what you're focusing on in education, especially for Black students?
I like that question. What's your why? For me, I should have panned the camera. I have a picture on my bookshelf of my two daughters, one on this side, one on this side, literally on both sides right now. They're surrounding me in this moment, which is perfect for my why. Those are my why. Those are the why I do what I do. It's for my two girls and knowing one day, at some point in their life, they're going to come up against something that I possibly could have changed for the better. And I want to be able to look at them and say, hey, daddy paved this pathway for you. So my why is making sure, especially in the world of mathematics, also now delving into more just education in general, are they getting this best educational experience? And if I want them to have the best educational experience, that means every kid should have the best educational experience. So I do what I do for my daughter on one side of me, my daughter on the other side of me, knowing that if I do what I'm supposed to do, then I've set the stage and paved the way for them to do what they need to do. But if I don't do what I got to do, they're going to have roadblocks and obstacles in front of them. So I do what I need to do for them. And at the end of the day, when you see me, when you see the passion where I go unapologetically, it's because when I see any kid in the classroom, I see my two kids. When I see any adult in the room, I see my kids as adults in the room. And especially, this is Black Girl Math. When I see a Black girl, a student that identifies as Black, student that identifies as girl, guess what? I see them. So when you see me go super hard, yes, I'm going for you, the students in front of me, the teachers in front of me, but I'm really seeing my kids in front of me, my two kids. And for me, that gives me all the strength I need, all the power I need to literally be unapologetic in any room I walk in and take no prisoners. Les Brown says it best. What? I take no prisoners and I eat the wounded. That's me. I'm ferocious when it comes to educational experiences and making sure every kid gets a high quality educational experience.
And I love the stories that you share about your daughters. It is, like you said, the most important why of it. We always are picturing students or our own families or our own children. And so I appreciate you sharing that. And as you said, your ferociousness and passion, because we got to have it. We got to have it for our kids because, you know, who else is going to do that?
And again, that's part of it. I'm speaking now. And one of the things I'm asking everyone, if not you, then who? Everyone thinks like it's some mythical education Cesar that makes all the rules and pulls all the strings. Like there's no mythical education leader. I've been in all the rooms, literally at all levels. There's no quote unquote mythical leader. What I found in every room, in every moment, whether it's a small room, whether it's in a classroom, whether it's at the national level, the folks in the room are those mythical education leaders at the moment. And if they don't do what they need to do, guess what? Things don't happen. Too many folks are looking for like this big, perfect thing to happen. It's not going to happen. It's literally every single person doing what they need to do. And then understanding if you don't do what you don't need to do in the moment, whoever is coming behind you can't do what they need to do. It's like what we're running right now is if you think about, I like track and field. And there's this race called the 4x100 meter relay. So there's one time around the track, but There are 4 people, so it's broken up into 4 parts. This is a math, so y'all get it broken into 4 parts. If the first leg doesn't do what they need to do, the baton never makes it to the second leg. If the second leg doesn't do what they need to do, it never gets to the third, never gets to the fourth, and you never finish the race. So essentially, all of us as educators, we're on this track at some place. We may be first leg, second leg, third leg, fourth leg. If we don't do what we need to do, the team doesn't win. The folks around us don't win. All right, let me be quiet. I'm about to go on the 10.
And it was
I'm from the South. In the South, we'll start preaching the message real quick on anything.
That's why I had you on, because, and what's interesting is that it is a great metaphor, but we saw it all this summer, right? We were watching track and field in the Olympics. I'm still watching it in the Paralympics. And so and no matter wherever place you find you with that student, wherever you get that baton, if you will, you can make up for whatever happened in the first, second leg. And so important is we, as the educators in the room, it's on us. It's not anybody else. It is on us. It's that time, whether it's in the classroom, whether you're the leader of the school, it's on us in terms of that. And you also talked about your daughters. And I know as an author, you wrote about girls and mathematics. Tell us more about that and what you found around girls and mathematics. And also, as you said, other students as well, as we branch out into other educational areas.
Here's what I found at its simplest form. Every child, notice I'm not saying student, because we look at students as very formal, they got an ID number. Every child, these are kids, these are babies. So when I say that, I say it in an enduring way to really wrap ourselves around the humanized aspect of who they are.
Amen.
But every child at their heart, especially when I co-wrote the book Making Sense of Teaching Mathematics for Girls, every child wants to see themselves in the mathematics experience. Every girl, especially, wants to see themselves in the mathematics experience. In the book, we talk about content, we talk about the pedagogical pieces and all those strategies. But at the heart, one of the things, if I go write a part 2, I'm just giving you my precursor. Okay. It'd be about the importance of someone seeing themselves. There's an example. Oh my gosh, I usually have it in my hands, right behind me. But I promise you all, if you've seen me on anything, I get up, I walk around the room. I promise I won't walk around the room at this moment, but I'm tempted to. But recently, one of my kids brought home this activity. On the activity, it was a picture of a student out there one would assume to be identified as a boy. And there was a picture of an activity of a student that's assumed to be identified as a girl. 2 look seemingly innocent tasks. And what the students had to do, pick which student they identify with. Obviously, we're going with the boy, male and female in this piece, and then color it in and turn it in. Well, as I looked at the imagery of the 2 tasks, based upon just how the images were conveyed or made, looked as there were 2 white identifying students, based upon the hair, based upon the style, all white identifying features. Why does that matter? My daughters are pretty chocolate girls. They're let me stop, because I'm gonna give them the nicknames out, and they say watching this Dad, you gave out our nicknames. All right, I won't. But I say, as my daughter looked at the image, I can tell she did not see herself in that girl. What I did was, I did what I call a remix. Went to my Photoshop, swapped out the image of a girl with some nice puffy hair, and she had the 2 puffs on the side, like my daughter wears her hair, slapped it on top, and that's what she turned in for an assignment. Why does that matter going back to the book? And if I write a part 2, students naturally look for themselves in the curriculum experiences. That's not every child. Let me reframe it again. I said, every child looks for themselves. Matter of fact, every adult looks for themselves in everything they do. When you're at the checkout line at your local grocery store, you see all those magazines. You skim them. You unconsciously and consciously look, do I see myself represented or something that related to my identity? We do it all the time. When you're watching the TV show, all of us have a favorite character on this TV show or movie. Why? Because we can identify with that person. We can we see ourselves as being that person. Now, take it down to the K-12 educational experience with children. they open that book, especially a mathematics book. They look to see, do I see myself? Do I see myself as a famous mathematician? Do I see myself in the names within the story? Do I see myself within any of the experiences in there? Especially when you identify as a girl, do I see myself represented? Oh, because typically it's a male dominated, old white men, male dominated field. So you always see the boy mathematician, the boy scientist, the old man scientist, but so it's making this conscious effort to include girls' experience. So when we think about the book, and I'm pointing over here because that's actually where the book is framed at on this side. Again, I need to get next time. I'm gonna get a camera that can pan so I can like go to camera 3, go to camera.
Okay.
But
high tech.
I got to step it up. But it's this whole making sense of teaching mathematics for girls is, do they see themselves in that curriculum experience? And again, now you all, as you're watching this video, as you create curriculum experiences, you're gonna look at your teacher materials or the materials, books that your kids may use in the home and see, do they see themselves or do they not? Because someone made a conscious decision to what images were included. Just as I showed that handout with the boy and the girl, someone made a decision to center whiteness in those two images and say, all right, every kid can identify with this, when every kid cannot.
No. And that's why it's difficult for us if we don't have the content, as you also talk about too. We don't have the content, we don't have the curriculum where the students can see themselves. And not just like you said, not just on one level, not just images, but their lifestyle, their religion, their culture, their socioeconomic status. Like, how are we, and I'll ask you that, what are you seeing across, as a keynote speaker across the nation? What are you seeing of what teachers are doing to make sure their students see themselves in the mathematics classroom?
It starts with, you said something key. I actually asked teachers, do you see them? Do you see whether they're melanated or not melanated? Do you see the identity that they bring into the space? Any identity? A lot of teachers put on that blindfold and say, no, Chris, I don't see color. I see every kid the same. So I get what you're trying to say, but no, every student's the same. But then I say, when you don't see a student's color, when you don't see a student's identity that they bring into space, what you do is you do not see that student. Yeah. Because if you're putting blinders on and saying every student is the same, when a student walks in your room with melanin in their going through their veins, that's who they are. They can't take that off. If a student walks into your room with blank identity in that space, that's who they are. So when you say you don't see any of that, you don't see them. Thus, how can you educate them? How can you develop a relationship with them? How can they see you as somebody that's going to give me the knowledge that I need? Thus, as we think about these experiences that the students are bringing into the room, we as educators have to develop that relationship with these children. We have to develop that relationship, see who they are, what they bring into the space, because when you think about what they bring into the space, when you think about who they are, especially our melanated kids and what is running through their veins, ancestry is running through every student's vein. Every student. I didn't say some students, I say also every student. You have to build a curriculum experience. When we think about this whole, right now we're in a phase of everybody's talking about culturally relevant pedagogy or culturally responsive teaching, which is a great thing. I love it. But it's understanding this whole child approach. That's what it comes to. Not, Chris, we gotta love them and hug them to death. That ain't gonna help. Chris, we gotta teach them the timetables. That ain't gonna help. What you need to do is show them how they are a part of history through mathematics, through all these identities. And what's running through their veins are the folks who founded all of these historical pieces, not the Greeks who stole stuff. But all right, let me stop because I'm gonna go with the Greeks.
Oh no,
I'm doing the Chris thing on the episode.
You're on a move. You're on a roll. You got to preach about it because they have to know. That's the important part about it. Like you said, their ancestry, that mathematics is in their blood, but they've been told, and also not even explicitly and implicitly with those images and what they see many times in their curriculum. Just like you said about your daughter's assignment. She could have easily not turned that in because I don't identify with either of these images. And now what?
In my house, I tell my kids, you can throw it in the trash. And they're like, why would you tell them that? Because don't they deserve to see themselves? Doesn't every student deserve to see themselves? Now, should there be a balance between the two? Yes. So some folks say, oh, you just want to only see a bunch of Black kids. I didn't say just that. I said every student should deserve to see themselves. If we talk about this whole thing of equity through an equitable lens in the classroom experience, when I walk into your classroom, when I look at every picture on the wall, it tells me something about who you are as an educator. When I walk through your school, every image I see tells me something. Every music that you play music, the music tells me something. And it's not just this is our culture or who we are. No, what about these kids? What about these children? I used in school, I used some classes I got done early, some I didn't. I used to daydream and just look around the room and wonder, do I see myself? And think about the math class, it's a bunch of dead old Greeks who stole stuff all around the room. And we got people thinking Pythagoras was a Plato and all these folks when they really didn't discover anything. And we have to think about there are so many other mathematicians out there that are purposely undiscovered that could be included in every curriculum program. But, folks just want to, thinking about I don't know, I'm gonna go there. Thinking about who the authorship teams are. I always go there. I call our authorship teams why? Because we have a homogeneous authorship team. In any facet, homogeneous authorship team, you're going to write to your lived experience and what you think and know to be quote unquote true. Until we diversify these authorship teams, we're not going to get diversified learning experiences. Guess what? Even on the book that I co-wrote, Making Sense Teaching Mathematics for Girls, I got called out one day. Someone say, Chris, how are you as a Black male writing a book about young girls? That's messed up. I said, wait, pause, pump your brakes. All my co-authors identify as female. They were like, oh, boom. Again, I practice what I preach. I'm not going to sit there on a book talking about teaching girls and I don't have that lived experience. But guess what? I brought the perspective of a father to it. My colleagues brought the perspective of all of them, all were mothers at the time also, and educators. Boom, diversity. What did it cost us to bring that group of folks together? Or we could have just said, hey, homogeneous group and write about it. And we'll get the same thing we've been getting for the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But, folks going to tell me it's getting better. Well, getting better is not better.
And to be honest, I mean, think about in all my time in education, even starting way back when, I think I read one book up until more recently, one book about experience of girls in schools. I think it was called Schoolgirls. And so, like you said, where am I? Even as an adult, where am I? Like you said, when we're at the math conferences, we're looking around for people who we can connect to. Actually, that's how we ran into each other because we had been tweeting and emailing. And I was like, hey, are you Chris? And so thinking about and made that connection instantly, like right on the first day of the conference. And we do that with others. And you're a great, what I appreciate about you is you're a great connector of educators. And you always are saying, hey, Levette, you gotta see or meet or go see him, her, them, at this session, and then you connect us through different social activities. So that is one of the huge things I appreciate about you because it can be a lonely place if you're doing this work solo. And so the great thing is that I feel like I have a community that I can come to.
And we got to think, I think the old saying goes, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go further, you go with a group. And what we have to understand in this work, if it's a quote unquote team approach to educating all these children, we got to work together. So for me, when I see you at a conference, I see others, I'm constantly connecting and introducing. Why? This is a team effort. This is a track. We're all on the relay team together. All of us have to play our role. If not, we're going to go fast, but we're not going to go far. And what we need to do to rectify, to reimagine this educational system, especially for our girls, especially for our Black girls, we got to work together in this. One person doesn't have all the answers, or one book doesn't have all the answers, but collectively, we got every answer we need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the work that we do and the work that continues. And so you talked about a couple of things that educators can do to build positive identities. And so that students can see themselves in the classrooms, in the mathematics, in the content. And so you talked about actually seeing their students, getting to know their students. what are some other things that you support, coach your educators that you work with on in terms of building those positive mathematical identities?
So here's the thing. A lot of folks say, oh, I like that culture stuff. It sounds good. Kumbaya. One thing I do not sacrifice is the quality of the content. I still, through all of this, maintain rigorous academic standards. I still maintain the use of rich problem solving in all this. So my bread and butter in my career, I only use rich problem solving tasks when I'm engaging students. To my researchers out there, high cognitive demand tasks. Yeah, I can talk the lingo if I need to. But when we use rich problem solving as it relates to our students, that's the key. But a lot of us want to, especially when it comes, we're talking about Black girls and Black students, or our brown girls and brown students, we love to, we gotta water it down for them. They can't read, or they can't do this and they can't do that. We just got them rote routines. They gotta know their timetable and their facts. When, here's my thing. If mathematics was originated in Africa, proven fact, check it out. If it was in Africa, that means those are Black folks, those are brown folks. So that means, give you a quick history lesson. If two people come together, they make a child. Okay, we're not getting the graphic. This is gonna keep it PG on this. If two people, this on the web. Oh, even Siri wanted to jump.
All right, want to join in the conversation.
If two people come together, they make a child. You with me on that? So if we think back over all these years, at some point that African blood is running through these current children's blood to this day, at some point and on some level. And if we think about it through that lens, if the originator's blood is running through these kids, you really don't think they can solve any math task if we give it to them in a relevant way? Do we really not think the kids can do it? Well, Chris, pause. I like that analogy, kumbaya, but you don't know these kids. I do know them. And I do know if you give them something that they relate to and they like, they can do it. Because for some reason, you can give them a cell phone, they can figure it out. You give them an iPad, they can figure it out without directions. If you give them a TikTok, they can figure it out. They can do a lot. If you give them a project, build this, they can figure it out. So you telling me they can't do this basic math? What it is, we're not putting in the language that speaks to them. And what we're doing is we're putting in a language that mainly speaks to our white identifying students. So they get it. They see themselves. I see the videos. I see the teachers. This is me. Our students don't see themselves. So as a person, think about if you walk into a room and walk into an environment where you do not see yourself in any facet. I'm fighting two things. One, I'm fighting to learn the content. Two, I'm just fighting to see myself within it so I can even make sense. Do I even belong in this space? So if you really want to create these experiences, and I always say if, because some of y'all really don't want to do it, keep it real. If we want to do it, what we're going to do is rethink what's running through these students' veins and saying, oh, greatness is within these kids. How do we pull it out of them? Or do we look at it through the lens of, no, they don't have this whole glass half empty methodology. And I challenge that whole piece. Chris, they don't have this. They don't have this. I always ask you, what do they have? What do they bring into the space? Because if you tell me what they bring into the space, guess what? I have something I can build upon, because no student comes into space totally empty. Every student comes into space with something. So when we look at this whole analogy of glass half full, glass half empty, what I do is say, let's reposit. Let's take that half full glass of what they bring into the space, take that glass and put it into a smaller glass. And guess what? I just got a full glass. So what I did is change my perspective of how these students enter the space. So what are you going to do as educators watching this, families watching this, change your perspective of how students enter into space? Or are you going to just look at them through a deficit lens because you really don't want them to succeed because you're afraid of what they can do?
Amen. Amen. And the third thing, and you talked about it, is what students have to do to even get to the mathematics. So they have to see themselves, they have to connect to it. And then not only that, they have to get through your language about them, the low expectations, the what I now call racial abuse instead of microaggressions, because there's nothing small about it, in terms of how can they show up in the classroom when a lot of times they're being pushed out.
And that's the key. Like you said, they're getting pushed out. They're not, the system isn't designed for these students to win. And I'm telling you, it's not designed. So you have to either believe me or say, no, Chris, anybody can win it. Statistically, they can't win in the system. So what are we willing to do? A lot of folks get upset. Oh, don't use that D word. Don't dismantle. What we're gonna do? We got to dismantle, disrupt, and reimagine the system. That's the only way to fix something that is inherently broken if you care about the kids. But if you don't care about them, keep doing what you've been doing. You're going to keep getting the results you've been getting, and you're going to keep blaming the students. But here's the thing. If you keep blaming the students year after year, but here's my question and my problem with that. There are a different set of students every single year. But one thing that has remained the same is your methodology. One thing that has remained the same is a school system. And you telling me year after year, the kids are the same? It may not be the kids.
Yeah, I remember I was doing a session. I forgot where. I was doing a session. I'll just keep it general. I was doing a session and I was walking past. I gave the educators a chance to talk in their groups about learning something real, so learning something deeply. And one of the educators, as I was passing, was just saying, well, I taught it. They just don't get it. They just don't understand it. And I was like, am I going to let that go? No, I was like, backed it up to the table and I go, what's the evidence that you taught it? And if they don't remember it, if it didn't stick to them, did you teach it? And so just thinking about, as you said, that important, rich mathematical task, the content is just as important to be able to connect to our children, to our babies. And so what are some things that you're working on right now to continue that work, as you said, dismantle, disrupt, and reimagine? And what can we do to help our educators who do want to see a difference, who do want to see the changes in their children?
So I'm doing just that. I'm dismantling, disrupting, and reimagining. So one of the things I'm dismantling and disrupting is these homogeneous decision-making rooms at these publishers and on these executive boards. I'm calling it out. That's what I'm known for. And my thing is, if you don't like me calling you out, then change it or keep it, which shows me you love what you're doing. You love these racist cultures that a lot of these publishers have going. And then folks get, oh, Chris, wait, you saying there's some racist publishers? Yeah. If a student, think about the students, that's the children in which we serve. Can they get to the highest levels within these organizations? A lot of them can't, but we keep purchasing from these organizations. Ding, 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 something should be wrong. If I'm serving children and diversity of children right now, over majority of students identify as melanated. With that being said, guess what? If educational entities cared about students, they would be representative of the students they serve in the executive suites and the boards. I don't want to hear about, oh my gosh, Chris, we got a janitorial staff that's diverse. No. At the top level. So the first thing I'm doing is disrupting that whole piece and calling that out. And then eventually I got another push. I'm not going to put it out there yet, next, of how do you further disrupt those inequitable systems? Because they maintain them, they know what's happening. Chris, how do you know they know? A lot of people see me on social like, oh, Chris is tweeting again. When I tweet something, trust me, I've had a one-on-one with a CEO or sat in that boardroom and had a conversation with these folks. So I don't get twisted with, oh, I'm a Twitter warrior. I'm in the room with these folks having the same uncomfortable discussion. So that's number one, addressing these boards. The second piece is developing quality content. That's one of the things I'm working on right now behind the scenes. Got some new stuff. When I start talking, I'm getting loud about it, but I haven't gotten loud about it. Okay. Some new content pieces because curriculum experiences matter. And there are ways that we can provide better curriculum experiences for students. If a student does not see themselves in a curriculum, why are we using that curriculum with the student? Every student's identity should be in a curriculum at some point. I'm not saying every single day, every single curriculum, that's impossible. It can't be done. But on a regular basis, yes, identity should be throughout. Think about this for a moment. There are some curriculums out there where a student can engage in from kindergarten to Algebra 2 and not see themselves in the entire. So if they went through a school district with this one program, imagine how you would feel. Kindergarten, don't see myself. First grade, don't see myself. Third, fourth, fifth, I don't see myself. And I went through an entire curriculum experience. And then when I get out of this experience, you're mad at me because I don't understand math because the curriculum probably sucked. And then two, you're mad at me because I really hate math. Not even don't understand it, but I hate it not because I couldn't figure it out. I didn't see myself, and you had all of this time to try. So publishers, what are we? And I'm in the publishing world. What are we going to do better? Or are we not going to do better because, hey, Chris, that means we got to diversify these authors. Oh yeah, that means, Chris, we got to spend some money. You spend money on everything else. You spend, because one of the things I've noticed about this whole education space, and right now, as this show is being recorded, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And this past summer, 2021, there's a huge push about interventions because the last school year, there's so many problems. All of a sudden, quote unquote, educational entities had the answer for interventions to help these melanated kids. Now you got the answer with your interventions, but you can't figure out a quote unquote answer with your core programs. All right, let me be quiet on that, because not a lot of the publishers going to listen and be like, my thing is, what's more important, selling an intervention or creating a quality program that can actually help the students? There's an old saying, I just saw this on social media. If I mess it up, I promise I'll come back to it. As it was a medical joke, but it was saying, if the patient gets well, you just lost a patient. So if these students start succeeding and doing well, you can't buy that intervention stuff. So are we creating programs that are not that good? Because we got to sell them an intervention. Also, just asking the question, just putting it out there. And again, I know you all look at me in the publishing world and say, Chris, what about, call me out too. And you know, when you come for me, you better bring a lot of smoke, because I keep receipts before I say what I got to do.
Wow. Well, I definitely have appreciated our conversation around, like you said, content and being able to see ourselves in everywhere and intentionally. And so I really appreciated you coming on, Chris, and talking with me and sharing your knowledge with our viewers. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Hey, you keep up the great work. I love the title. I'm double checking. I do not want to mispronounce it. Black Girl Math. To all my Black girls out there that are watching this, you are what this generation needs. You, each and every one of you, are what this generation needs. And I need you all to rock and roll and do what you're doing, because you have greatness within you. As the great Les Brown says, each of you Black girls has greatness within you. I need you to show the world that greatness that you have that's within you, that is within you. This has been your boy, as I always end, Dr. Christopher J. Childs, your favorite educator. Check me out on all social media platforms at DRK Childs. Visit the website, www.christopherchilds.com. Trust me, 2022, I got something for the field. I'm going to be on fire. If you thought I was loud before, I'm gonna be real calm in 2022. I'm coming in like a bull in a china shop. I got something for you all as children in this educational system. We're about to disrupt, we're about to dismantle, we're about to reimagine.
I am so grateful for you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks.